Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for all the job done by the Secretariat and Pricewaterhouse and the rapporteur on this very important study. I want to support strongly the conclusions that Mr. Sorensen has given us today. I think it is really worrying that the study could not really get into the depth of the problem because the information is lacking. And I think this already, is telling us something about the importance that the EU institutions give to misuse, misappropriation of funds, fraud, corruption, and all criminal acts around EU funds. But there was something that caused more concern to me before this conclusion about the lack of information, and it was the definition of what is misuse of funds. You tend to define this as, Pricewaterhouse tends to define this as fraud. But then we have to go and see how fraud is defined. And I have heard at least one member of the European Court of Auditors define fraud as misuse of funds when there is criminal intent. And if we have to wait for a court to define that there is criminal intent, then we have a difficulty to pursue any irregularity around the use of funds. And I think here lies the problem, because we have our hands tied to investigate, because we first have to determine if there was criminal intent. I think we would have much more data if there was, investigation from the start on any irregularity. And the European Court of Auditors reports a high number of irregularities every year. So we have some ways to investigate. So I think the definition of misuse or misappropriation of funds is very important to tackle and should be one of the reforms. I agree with most of all your recommendations, which I must say are pretty obvious and have been obvious for a number of us in this committee and around the Parliament. I wholeheartedly agree with the reform of OLAF. I do agree with zero tolerance, and I have to say that I am very concerned about the move to tolerable risk of error. I agree about the need to revise the whistleblowers regulation. We have discussed this in another study made by Pricewaterhouse. I think it's fundamental. I wish we have a review of the study considering all these conclusions and essentially, what was said by Mr. Sorensen. Thank you.